What up, Keep Real fam? Hope everybody's having a blessed day. For today's video, I want to talk about the topic of what's never healed will always repeat. And that phrase kind of sounds self-explanatory, but I think a lot of us kind of tend to overlook it or not even give it any attention at all or recognize it and how it plays into our own lives, essentially. And so this video really just comes from having a conversation with somebody on a podcast I was recently on, and it kind of made me think deeper into the phrase because I've said it to myself, but I kind of want to go more in depth into it and just like make a full video on it. But the phrase "what's never healed will always repeat" really just comes from what we never handle from our past relationships, from our childhood, will always show up again in our future life, in our future relationships and things like that. And so a lot of you guys have probably gone through life and you may not even recognize some things, whether it's from your childhood, whether it's from your past relationships and things like that, where you avoided doing the necessary work to actually like uncover certain emotions and certain feelings that you felt that were never properly taken care of or actually like recognized and things like that. And I won't go too deep into childhood, but I'll more so go into like our relationships and things like that, to where you it may have shown up in your life more recently that you can actually remember. But you know, a lot of you guys get into certain relationships or you feel certain feelings, you have certain relationships with your parents, and you know, things rub off on you a certain way. And I know I've done it in my past where you kind of try and avoid it. You know, it brings this feeling to you and it brings these thoughts to you that aren't pleasant, to be straight up. Like, they aren't pleasant. It feels uncomfortable. They feel painful to think about. They can make you emotional, and you almost get in this, you know, resistance state where it's like you're trying to fight against what, you know, makes you feel unpleasant basically, or doesn't make you feel good basically. And so you almost like trying to avoid it. You're trying to distract yourself. A lot of you guys, or some of you guys, may have found different coping mechanism, whether that's smoking, partying, drinking, you know, just interacting with friends can be a coping mechanism. Moving on to different relationships before you actually give yourself the time to heal and reflect and, you know, actually like grow from certain situations or certain experiences in which you went through. And so this idea of what is never healed will always repeat is to say that certain things trigger us. Certain things have brought out a side of us where, you know, we almost like we want certainty, or we want something out of a situation, but we never actually question it basically, or it triggers us in a way where it makes us run or avoid or, you know, beg or something like that. But we never take the time to actually question it. We usually just allow ourselves to react off of that feeling. You know, a lot of you guys have a problem with commitment. A lot of you guys need validation from other people. A lot of you guys always need reassurance and always need clarity and always think of the worst case scenario and things like that. It's like things happen, things trigger us, and we just kind of react out of that trigger, but we never actually take the time to reflect and like question it and why we even feel that way, why we constantly need reassurance, why we constantly need people's acceptance, why we aren't comfortable in our own skin, why do we always feel the need to put on a mask and, you know, be who other people tell us we need to be rather than who we're comfortable being as ourselves and stuff like that, as our authentic self and stuff like that. It's like we just kind of go through life just like ignoring, not really asking the necessary questions, not asking the hard questions that would make us have to actually look within, sit with certain emotions, sit with certain feelings, sit with certain realities that have constantly repeated themselves in life. You know, a lot of us have been in a pattern where you know, we avoid getting in relationships because we fear the pain of, you know, not being heard, or we fear the pain of, you know, it one day possibly ending and stuff like that. And it's like we have all these subconscious fears, all these subconscious things in which we just naturally avoid that isn't normal, but we've normalized it in our life to the point that it's like we don't ever actually get to the bottom of like why we do certain things. And for some of us, it's like a past version of ourselves, whether that's a younger version of ourselves, whether that's the version of ourselves from 5 years ago, are screaming essentially for attention and to be validated and to be recognized and to be handled. And it's like we never turn around and actually like do the deep work, do the necessary work, because it's like just uncomfortable. Again, it's painful at times. It it takes time to actually work through those problems and which are be asking to be worked on. And so, we have a younger version of ourselves that might be screaming for validation, or maybe screaming to actually be understood and heard, or maybe screaming to, be accepted and stuff like that. But it's like we never actually turned around and like gave that to ourselves, or like really unpacked what we're looking for in certain situations. We just kind of ignored it and just hoped that it would go away. And that's what a lot of us have done throughout our life. We've suppressed the uncomfortable feelings and the uncomfortable thoughts and the uncomfortable truths of our life because we never wanted to deal with them. We never wanted to go through that process of healing and just doing the internal work, which was the necessary work. And so as a result, it pops up later in our relationships to the future. Just because I ignored the fact I needed validation and I eventually just forgot about it, doesn't mean that, in future relationships, it can't just be triggered again. What's never healed will always repeat just means, hey, I needed validation then, and I never actually acknowledged it, and I never actually sat with it, and I never actually learned from it and learned how I could provide that validation to myself. So even though this relationship's finally over, even though this event or this experience is out of the way and it's in my past and I forgot about it, doesn't mean that in the future, whether it's 10 years, 20 years down the line, it can't literally just repeat itself because it was never healed. Just because you forgot about it doesn't mean it's not still there. A lot of people got they check engine lights on their car and they ignoring it. It's right there, right in front of them, but they ignoring it and they still driving and stuff like that. Doesn't mean it's just gonna go away. That loud noise you might be hearing on your car, or your bank account being where it's at, just because you don't open up the app don't mean the money night's not still going away. Just because that you hear that loud noise and you turn up the music don't mean that problem going away. It's a lot of things we try so hard to just tune out. We find all these different distractions, all these coping mechanisms, but it's like it's still there. It's not going anywhere. Just because we do a good job of avoiding it and ignoring it and hoping that it goes away or hoping that it's not a big deal doesn't mean that it doesn't still need to be taken care of, because it will just show up eventually at another point in our life. And some of us, we don't even realize it. We run away from the triggers, or we run away from experiences or circumstances in which can trigger that emotion to come up, or that thing that we didn't heal to come up. So we avoid getting in relationships because we understand that it comes with a level of commitment, and we have this fear that people will always abandon us, or that we have this fear of expressing ourselves in certain emotions. And so anytime something causes for us to actually work on it, or push past the limit of working through things and stuff like that, and actually having to communicate and express our feelings and things like that. And so you're naturally avoiding the areas of your life in which have been painful and that you never handle, because you almost are running from that pain. So any situation you see could possibly bring out that side of you, whether you're insecure about that side of you, or whether again you just want to avoid that part of yourself, you'll avoid or sabotage yourself from experiencing anything that could possibly bring it out. And so some of you guys will constantly run from commitment. Some of you guys will constantly run from vulnerability. Some of you guys will constantly run from the fear of failure that you have. And so you won't take certain risks. And so you won't step outside of your comfort zone. Some of you guys will, always want to keep yourself to yourself because you don't want to go out and actually have to face the possibility or the reality of being rejected, or people not accepting you, or people saying that you're not good enough and stuff like that. Like, you don't realize it, but like you're almost sabotaging yourself from your own growth and the experience of life and fully experiencing life, because you haven't handled the necessary problems within yourself. And this can go so much deeper, and I'm kind of keeping it on the surface level just because that's kind of where my mind at, and I want to make this video pretty simple to understand. But it can go so much deeper, again, like whether it's the experiences you had as a childhood that you may not even remember. Because I know for a point in my life, like there's a part of my life that is like almost like completely forgotten, just because it was like not even completely rough, but it was just not a great point in time. And so it's like there's a part of my life where I'm like, I don't even remember what really happened. Like a lot of that stuff was a blur because there was so much stuff that was going on, and it seemed to constantly just be negative. But I know as I move through life, there will probably be things where from that period of time in my life, certain triggers come up because, you know, I never resolve certain things from what happened then. But a lot of guys may be like, okay, Will, so how should I move forward? How do I face these parts of myself? And for me personally, I think the biggest thing is really just asking questions, because for me, I had to learn to question myself a lot and really ask, like, what am I trying to gain out of certain situations? What am I trying to gain out of doing certain actions and things like that? Because that's the only way in which you can actually bring awareness and make an intentional decision to, you know, change the narrative you always told yourself, or, you know, heal that part of yourself. Because again, a lot of us don't really realize like where we need to heal until we actually try and like bring awareness to it, or where it might be attached to certain things. And so I asked myself, like, you know, just to keep it simple, like, oh, why do I really care about like which photo I post on my story? Why do I really give all this energy and all this thought into what this person cares about me? Why do I really care so much about how this person feels about me? Why do I care so much about, you know, what this decision, what other people will think of it and stuff? Like, when you really sit down and you like question these things, you're like, oh, you know, I'm depending on this person emotionally for my self-love, or how other people see me will determine how I see myself. And, you know, I think that this could possibly make people see me negatively, which then will make me insecure and, you know, question who I am. And that just means, oh, I don't have a confident foundation and understanding of who I am as a person, because I've allowed how other people see me to determine how I see myself. And so I need to get a better foundation of how I see myself, so that, you know, I'm more secure in my own body, and it allows me to live a more authentic life. Like, you see how asking certain questions can allow you to become aware of certain problems in which you can now find a solution to, which then allows you to live a life of more peace and more happiness and things like that. Because when it comes to things like these, like, although they're uncomfortable, again, like, although really like sitting here asking these questions and reflecting and like asking the hard questions and things like that, like, although it can be uncomfortable and bring about uncomfortable thoughts, and you have to reflect on certain experiences that you wanted to forget about and things like that, like, healing is internal work, is like a long-term investment. Like, although it's painful in the moment, it's setting you up to be a better you in your future relationships, so that you can show up as your best self and not sabotage yourself, prevent yourselves from certain opportunities, not hold yourself back from taking certain risks that might point you or lead you to your purpose and things like that. That's why I say, like, sometimes, like, when you go through certain experiences, like, those experiences are trying to help you bring awareness to the parts of yourself that you need to grow, that you need to strengthen, that you need to actually acknowledge and heal and things like that. That's why I say, like, people come into our life for a purpose, to take us through a certain series of events that, you know, help us to become a better version of ourselves. And although we may not see it right now in the moment, down the line we'll look back and reflect, and we'll be like, oh, I'm so glad that person came into my life, or I went through that experience, because it allowed me to grow in this certain specific way that now allows me to be this version of myself that's able to do this and this in the world that I previously wasn't able to do, or had I not gone through that, I wouldn't be able to do. And so my challenge to you is to really become more self-aware. Like, become aware of the times where you get triggered, whether that's with a certain emotion, whether that's in anger, whether that's anxiety, whether that's a fear or something, and truly question it. You know, why am I angry at this situation? Why do I fear the situation? What assumptions am I making about the unknown? Or why do I fear failure? Or, you know, what outcome am I trying to resist? Why do I feel anxious about, you know, whether this person is replying to me, or, you know, about posting this? And so, like, truly take the time to notice when you're kind of getting riled up, and like question, like, you know, why do I feel this way? What's really going on under the surface? What's going on under the surface that's now causing the effect of what's on the surface, basically. But, you know, I appreciate you guys for tuning into the video. I hope you learned a thing or two, hopefully a lot. Please comment down below what other videos you guys want to see me make, what other topics or things you want me to discuss that you believe, you know, you'll want to tune into, because I want to make the best quality videos for you guys that you guys actually want to listen to and will actually resonate with the problems of what you're facing in your life. But, you know, yeah, go cop a hoodie on the website, willkeepitreal.com. Use code WKeepItReal at checkout for 20% off. Join up on the Discord, like, comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications. Catch you guys in the next video. Peace.